The locksmith's drill screamed against metal. Rachel stood in her ex-husband's overgrown backyard, watching rust flake off the shed's door handle, and thought about the text Marcus had sent yesterday. "Good luck with your prize," faced with tears of joy. Should cover at least 1 month's rent. But that was 48 hours ago, before the floor gave way. 2 days earlier, Rachel signed the divorce papers at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, in a courthouse that smelled like floor wax and defeat. Marcus got the house, the 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester with the chef's kitchen Rachel had designed. He got the Mercedes. He got the investment portfolio his father had helped them build, translation, had put in Marcus's name only. He got their daughter Zoe every other weekend, which was more than he bothered with during the marriage. Rachel got $850 in her checking account and the garden shed. The shed, Judge Morrison had looked up from the settlement papers, confused. "My client insists," Marcus's lawyer had said smoothly. "The structure holds sentimental value for Ms. Chun. Her late father built it." That was technically true. Rachel's father had spent 3 summers working on it before he died, 17 years ago. But Marcus calling it sentimental was rich considering he'd called it that rotting eyesore for the entire 11 years of their marriage. "Fine," the judge had said. "Ms. Chun gets the shed and its contents. Mr. Westwood keeps the property, but Ms. Chun has 90 days to remove the structure." Marcus had actually smiled. His lawyer had smirked. Rachel had felt something crack inside her chest and told herself it was just another piece of the woman she used to be, breaking off and falling away. Now she stood in her studio apartment, $1,200 a month, due in 6 days, and tried to figure out how to move a shed with $312.47 to her name. The bakery paid $15 an hour. The tutoring gig brought in another $200 a week if she was lucky. Zoe's school fees were $480 a month, non-negotiable. The math didn't work. It never worked. Her phone buzzed. Zoe, texting from her bedroom 10 feet away. "Can I have pizza money for lunch tomorrow?" Rachel looked at her account balance again. $4.50 for 2 slices or $4.50 toward the electricity bill. She started typing a reply, then stopped. Started again. "Sure, baby. I'll leave cash on the counter." She'd skip lunch. Again. The next morning, Rachel took the train to Westchester, $7.40 she couldn't afford, and let herself through the side gate of what used to be her house. Marcus was at work. The new girlfriend was probably inside, rearranging Rachel's furniture, sleeping in Rachel's bed. The shed sat at the back of the property, half hidden by overgrown forsythia. The paint had peeled to bare wood. The door hung crooked on rusted hinges. Rachel pulled the handle, and it came off in her hand. "Sentimental value," she muttered. "Sure, Marcus." She peered through the gap. Darkness. The smell of earth and rot. She pulled out her phone flashlight and stepped inside. The shed was maybe 10 by 12 feet. Old tools hung on the walls. Her father's hammers, his handsaw, everything coated in dust. Boxes of terracotta pots. A workbench sagging under its own weight. Rachel ran her hand along the bench. Her father had let her help sand it. She'd been 8. He'd taught her to work with the grain, to feel the wood smooth under her palm. 2 months later, he was gone. Heart attack at 53, sudden and absolute. Her throat tightened. She blinked hard. No time for grief. She needed to figure out how to move this thing. She knelt to check the foundation. Concrete blocks, half sunk in mud. She'd need a truck. Maybe she could rent one for a day, hire someone to help dismantle it. Except that would cost at least $400, and she had. The floor moved. Rachel froze. Not an earthquake. Not settling. The concrete block under her left hand had shifted. She pushed harder. The block tilted, revealing darkness beneath. Her heart kicked hard. She pulled out the block entirely. It was lighter than it should be, hollow, maybe. Beneath it was not earth, but metal. A handle. Rachel pulled. The entire floor section lifted on hinges, revealing a ladder descending into blackness. "What the hell?" she whispered. She shined her phone light down. The ladder dropped maybe 15 feet to a concrete floor. The beam caught the edge of something, shelving? A room? Rachel climbed down. The underground space was the same size as the shed above, 10 by 12, but the walls were reinforced concrete. Professional construction, nothing like her father's DIY work upstairs. Industrial shelving lined 3 walls. And on those shelves, boxes. Dozens of them. Labeled in her father's handwriting, industrial samples. Do not open. Rachel lifted the nearest box. Heavy. She set it on the floor and opened it. Inside was a cloth bag. Inside the bag was. Light exploded from her phone flashlight, refracting into 1,000 colors. Diamonds. Rachel's hands shook so hard, she nearly dropped the bag. She set it down carefully and opened another box. More diamonds. Rough stones, cut stones, some as small as grains of rice, others the size of her thumbnail. She opened 6 boxes before her knees gave out, and she sat hard on the concrete floor. Her father had been a jeweler. A small-time jeweler who'd worked from home, taking repairs and custom orders, barely making ends meet. Rachel's mother had worked 2 jobs. They'd lived paycheck to paycheck. But this was impossible. Rachel's phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Security cameras show you're trespassing. You have 1 hour before I call the cops. She looked at the boxes. At the ladder. At the shed that Marcus had been so generous to give her. He had no idea. Rachel started moving boxes up the ladder. She worked fast, her mind racing. 90 days to remove the shed. Marcus didn't know about the bunker. The security cameras couldn't see through the shed walls. She had time. Not much, but enough. Maybe enough to change everything. Rachel's kitchen table disappeared under boxes labeled industrial samples. She'd made 6 trips in 3 days, hauling them out at 6 a.m. before Marcus's cameras activated their motion alerts. Now she sat surrounded by her father's secrets and tried to breathe normally. Zoe was at school. Rachel had 4 hours before the bakery shift. She opened her laptop and started researching. Rough diamonds, cut diamonds, industrial diamonds, conflict diamonds. The terms blurred together. She photographed 3 stones, carefully, on white paper, from multiple angles, and emailed them to the first gemologist whose website didn't look fake. The response came in 7 minutes. Miss Chun, I need you to call me immediately. Do not speak to anyone else about these stones. Do not post these photos anywhere. I'm available now. Rachel's hands shook as she dialed. Where did you get these? The man's voice was sharp, urgent. My father's estate. He died 17 years ago. Your father was a jeweler? Small time. He did repairs, mostly. Some custom work. We were never. Rachel stopped. What? Because one of the stones you photographed is a fancy, vivid blue diamond, approximately 12 carats. If it's authentic, it's worth between $15 and $20 million. The room tilted. Rachel sat down hard. That's impossible. The other 2 are also exceptional quality. Miss Chun, how many stones do you have? Rachel looked at the boxes. She'd opened 12 so far. Each held anywhere from 20 to 80 stones. She'd stopped counting at 400. I don't know, she whispered. A lot. I need to see them. All of them. Today, if possible. I'm in Manhattan. Can you bring samples? I have work, Miss Chun. If what you're describing is real, you're looking at a collection worth potentially hundreds of millions of dollars. Take the day off. If you're following Rachel's story, subscribe now. This is where everything changes. Rachel called in sick to the bakery, first time in 11 months. She packed 20 stones carefully in a padded envelope, took the train to Manhattan, and found herself in an office that looked like a jewelry museum. Daniel Rothstein examined each stone under a microscope, making notes in careful handwriting. He weighed them, measured them, ran them under various lights. Your father, he said finally. What was his full name? Robert Chun. He worked from home in Queens. Small operation. He died in 2007. Daniel pulled up something on his computer. Typed. Frowned. Did he ever mention a dealer named Viktor Kozlov? No. Should he have? Viktor Kozlov was one of the largest illegal diamond dealers in the Northeast. Russian mob connections. He ran a smuggling operation through New York for 20 years before disappearing in 2006. Daniel turned the screen toward Rachel. The FBI estimated his inventory at the time of his disappearance at over $400 million. They never found it. Rachel's vision tunneled. You think my father? I think your father might have worked for Kozlov. Jewelers were often recruited to recut and regrade smuggled stones, make them untraceable. It's dangerous work. If you get caught, you go to prison. If you try to leave or talk. Daniel paused. People disappeared. My father died of a heart attack. Maybe. Or maybe the stress of this work killed him. Daniel gestured at the stones. Miss Chun, these are extraordinary diamonds. Flawless or near flawless. Rare colors. Exceptional cuts. And if they came from Kozlov's operation, They're possibly stolen, possibly conflict diamonds, definitely illegal. Rachel felt sick. I need to give them to the police. That's one option. They'd be seized as evidence. You'd get nothing. Or, Daniel leaned forward. Some of these stones have been off the market for 20 years. Provenance gets murky. If we're careful, selective, we could establish clean documentation for certain pieces. Sell privately. No one's searching for these anymore. Kozlov's dead. The original owners are impossible to trace. That's illegal. It's practical. Your father risked his life for this. He left it for you. Daniel's voice softened. How much did your ex-husband leave you in the divorce? Rachel thought of Marcus's smirk. The Mercedes. The house. $850 and a shed. The shed where you found these. Yes. Ms. Chun, I can help you turn this into a new life. Legal, clean, smart. But we need to move carefully. He pushed a contract across the desk. I authenticate, document, and broker private sales. You keep 70%. I guarantee total discretion. Rachel looked at the diamonds glittering under the desk lamp. Her father's handwriting on the boxes. The years her mother had worked herself to exhaustion. The studio apartment. Zoe's school fees. Marcus's laugh when the judge awarded Rachel the shed. She sighed. Over the next month, Rachel lived a double life. By day, she worked at the bakery, tutored middle schoolers, picked Zoe up from school. By night, she cataloged diamonds. Daniel introduced her to private collectors, people who asked no questions and paid in cash or untraceable wire transfers. The first sale brought $3.2 million. A 12-carat pink diamond to a Hong Kong investor. Rachel paid off her credit cards, paid 6 months' rent in advance, bought Zoe new shoes that actually fit. The second sale brought $8.5 million. A matched set of yellow diamonds to an art dealer in Geneva. Rachel opened a college fund for Zoe, set up a trust, paid off her mother's mortgage, anonymously, through a lawyer, so the questions wouldn't start. By week 6, Daniel's conservative estimate hit $180 million in total value. Rachel had moved half the collection through his network. The money accumulated in offshore accounts, carefully structured, legally documented through shell companies and investment vehicles. She quit the bakery, told Zoe they could afford a bigger apartment, enrolled her in the art classes she'd always wanted. And then Marcus called. I'm selling the house, he said without preamble. Buyers want to close in 30 days. You need to get that shed off my property. Rachel's heart stopped. The shed's gone. I removed it 3 weeks ago. Silence. Then, really? Because I was just in the backyard, and it's still there. I took the contents. I'll have the structure removed this week. You better. And Rachel? I hope whatever junk you got from it was worth the hassle. He hung up laughing. Rachel stood in her new 2-bedroom apartment. Hardwood floors, real kitchen, windows that faced south, and smiled. Worth the hassle. If he only knew. She called a demolition company. I need a shed removed and the area underneath filled with concrete. Can you do it in 3 days? Sure. What's underneath? Just an old root cellar. Nothing important. The crew finished on a Thursday. Rachel watched from the street as they crushed the shed, filled the bunker with concrete, and graded the area smooth. By Friday morning, there was no evidence the shed or the underground room had ever existed. Marcus would sell the house. The new owners would plant grass. No one would ever know, except Rachel. The call from Marcus's lawyer came 6 months later, just as Rachel was signing papers on a 3-bedroom house in a neighborhood with good schools and trees that turned gold in October. Miss Chun, we have a situation regarding the divorce settlement. Rachel's stomach clenched. The settlement's final. It was finalized 8 months ago. New information has come to light. Mr. Westwood discovered security footage from last year showing you removing multiple boxes from a shed. He believes these boxes contain valuable items that should have been disclosed during asset division. He gave me the shed and its contents. The judge's order was clear. Mr. Westwood contends he was unaware of the contents' value. He's filing a motion to reopen the settlement. He wants 50% of whatever you found. Rachel looked around her new living room. Zoe's art projects covered the refrigerator. Real furniture sat on real carpets. Through the window, she could see the swing set she'd installed last month. Tell Marcus I found old tools and empty pots. Nothing valuable. If he wants to fight over rusty hammers, he's welcome to try. He claims you've made significant purchases recently. New home, new car, private school tuition for your daughter. I work in finance now. Not a lie. She hired herself as her own wealth manager through one of Daniel's shell companies. I manage investment portfolios. I earn a good salary. He's demanding documentation. Then he can file his motion and I'll see him in court. With my lawyer. A very expensive lawyer. Rachel let steel into her voice. Tell Marcus that if he pursues this, I'll countersue for emotional distress and harassment. I'll make sure it's public, messy, and expensive, where he can walk away and leave me alone. His choice. 3 days later, Marcus's lawyer called back. My client has decided not to pursue the matter. Rachel hung up and exhaled for what felt like the first time in a week. That night, she took Zoe to dinner at the Italian place downtown, the one with white tablecloths and prices that didn't have to matter anymore. Mom, can I ask you something? Zoe twisted her napkin, nervous. Anything, baby. Are we rich now? Rachel thought about the question. About the diamonds still waiting in Daniel's secure vault. Another $150 million worth. Give or take. About the accounts in her name, the investments, the future that stretched ahead like an open road. About her father, working in secret, risking everything, building something he never lived to see pay off. We're secure, Rachel said carefully. We don't have to worry about rent or food or doctor bills. You can take our classes and go to good schools. We can have nice things. Because of the shed? Rachel smiled. Because of Grandpa. He left us something valuable. I wish I could have met him. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. 6 months later, Rachel stood in the office of the June Holloway Foundation, a nonprofit she'd established to help divorced women rebuild their lives. Real office space, real staff, real money to make actual change. She'd funded legal aid, housing assistance, job training, childcare subsidies, all the things she'd needed and couldn't find when her marriage fell apart. Daniel had helped structure everything legally. The foundation ran on investment returns. The IRS saw clean money from clean sources. No one asked about the rough diamonds that occasionally moved through private sales to collectors who valued discretion. Rachel kept enough to live comfortably, not extravagantly, but comfortably. The house, Zoe's education, travel, security. The rest went to women like her. Women Marcus had dismissed and judges had shortchanged. She was reviewing grant applications when her phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Chen? This is Agent Carlson with the FBI. I'm calling about your father, Robert Chen. Rachel's heart stopped. My father died in 2007. I know. We've recently closed the investigation into Viktor Kozlov's smuggling operation. Your father's name appeared in some documents. We believe he may have worked for Kozlov under duress, threatened, possibly, or coerced. Why are you telling me this? Because we wanted you to know he wasn't a criminal. The evidence suggests Kozlov forced him to work, threatened his family. Your father tried to leave the organization multiple times. We believe the stress contributed to his death. Agent Carlson paused. I'm sorry we couldn't prove this while he was alive, but we wanted his family to know the truth. Rachel closed her eyes. Thank you. One more thing. If you ever come across any of Kozlov's inventory, diamonds, gemstones, anything, there's a process for reporting it. No questions asked, no legal consequences. We just want to close the case. I'll keep that in mind, Rachel said. She hung up and sat in silence. Her father had been a victim, trapped, tried to protect his family the only way he knew how. And when he died, he'd left Rachel the escape route he never got to use. That evening, she drove to Queens and parked outside her childhood home. Different owners now. The garden where her father had built the shed was gone, replaced by a patio and gas grill. But Rachel remembered. The smell of sawdust. Her father's hands guiding hers. The quiet way he'd worked, always careful, always precise. He'd built her an inheritance. Not just money, though God knows that mattered, but proof that careful work pays off. That patience builds empires. That what looks worthless to one person is priceless to another. Rachel drove home to Zoe, to the foundation, to the life her father's secrets had built. She never told anyone about the diamonds. She never filed a report with the FBI. Some stones she sold. Others she donated to museums anonymously. Beautiful pieces that deserve to be seen, to bring joy instead of hiding in the dark. And one stone, a small blue diamond, flawless, the first one she'd ever held, she had set in a simple pendant. She wore it every day against her skin, warm and constant. A reminder that her father had loved her enough to build her a bunker. That Marcus's contempt had been the best gift he'd ever given her. That sheds and ex-husbands and lawyers who smirk are not the measure of a woman's worth. Rachel touched the pendant and smiled. In her office, grant applications waited. Women needing help, needing hope, needing someone to believe their stories. She got to work, just like her father had taught her. Careful, patient, building something that would outlast them both. The shed was gone. The bunker was filled with concrete. The diamonds were legend. But the woman who'd been left with nothing except a garden shed and $850? She was just getting started.